Hi, welcome back to Reading Queen, my fellow bookworms. Finally, again, we are doing the Hiddenseek. Come out wherever you are. Chapters 25 through 27. Okay. Let's get started. Chapter 25. Holly stared at the photo. There was Hector, sliding off his seat. There was Holly, frowning, Mom and Dad with their plastic smiles, and two boys, both with identical, satisfied looks on their face, Marco and Max. What happened? George spun around as if trying to make sense of his surroundings. Where are we? This is our house. Hector tugged at Holly, he was bursting with joy. We're home. Petunia turned to Holly. Is that true? Her voice was full of hope. Yes, Holly confirmed. This is definitely our house. Petunia made a noise that was something between a gasp and a laugh. We made it, she whispered. We actually made it. George, Petunia, and Hector began to celebrate, sharing exasperant smiles and hugs. But Holly held back from the others. Something was off. The hallway seemed like it was just slightly the wrong color. Everything was dull and muted, like an old photograph aged by time. It made her feel uneasy. The door opened and someone stepped out into the hall. A girl. She had a long black braid, just like her mother's. It was Holly. She was looking at herself. Holly stepped out of the way, making room for this other version of herself to walk past. Her doppelganger didn't see or acknowledge her presence in any way. Holly? Petunia asked. The smile on her face was fading. Is that you? The other Holly didn't so much walk away as stomp down the hall. It was almost the perfect imitation of her mom when she was angry. She didn't see us, George said. It's like we weren't even there. This is weird, Hector said. What's going on? I don't know, Holly answered. She heard voices coming from the front of the house. But I want to find out. They filed down the hall and into the living room. The other Holly was standing right in front of the TV, blocking it. She was shaking her finger at two boys sitting in front of her, Marco and Max. The twins were sprawled out on the floor, each with a video game controller in hand. They looked as relaxed and comfortable as possible. They looked at home. You're not hiding, the other Holly said. Come on, Marco leaned to look past Holly. Move out of the way. Hector took a step forward, as if to get a better look. What are those guys doing here? He asked, sounding utterly confused. Is that... Petunia squinted, then she whipped around to face Holly. When she spoke, her voice shook. Holly, what is this? Why are Marco and Max in your house? Holly could see the pain on Petunia's face. She could hear it in her voice. She thinks we lied to her, that we hid it from her. I'm sorry, Holly said. It's not what it looks like. I was going to tell you, she turned to Hector. Tell you both. Tell me what? Hector asked. There are brothers, Holly said. Brothers? Hector scoffed. We don't have brothers. A look of doubt crossed his face, though. Before Holly could respond, another version of Hector walked in from the hallway. The real Hector's mouth dropped open. Why aren't we playing it? The other Hector asked. They're not hiding. The other Holly scrunched her face up in anger. Holly felt a rush of embarrassment. Do I really look like that? Petunia grabbed Holly by the shoulder and turned her back around. Why didn't you say anything? I didn't know it. No, I didn't know. Not at first, Holly explained. What do you mean? How could you not know? Petunia was incredulous. Wait, George said, stepping between them. Remember what Oliver told us? That no one would remember us? Petunia began to retort, then stopped, swallowing her words. A light bulb seemed to have clicked in her head. Oliver took them first, she said to Holly. You forgot them. Holly gave Petunia a sad nod. I think maybe I saw their room. Hector looked back toward the hall. The extra room in the hallway. The door Holly had never opened. Of course, it belonged to the twins. Holly quickly scanned the living room, looking for other small differences. She noticed now that things seemed more organized, tidier, the way it looked like before Mom had changed. I think we're somehow in the past, Holly said, like in a memory that we're lost. Holly, heads up! They all jumped at the other Hector's sudden shout. He tossed something to the other Holly. She caught it. Look what I've got, she teased. Max's phone. Whatever, Max said, still intent on his game. You don't know the password, the passcode. Let's see, the other Holly said. With Max, it would be something needlessly complicated, but still uncreative. Ouch, Marco laughed. Your birthday. The other Holly started thumbing in the phone, but the numbers rearranged in a sequential order. There, huh? How about that? First try. Holly cringed. This other version of herself sounded so arrogant. Max dropped his controller and hopped up. Hey, give it back. Hide and seek. The other Holly was emphatic. Ugh. Max rubbed his hands over his eyes. Whose idea was babysitting? Yours, Marco said. I'm an idiot. Fine, we'll play. Petunia covered her mouth. She looked stricken. Hide and seek. They're playing hide and seek. The other Hector began counting. The other Holly pulled at Marco's shirt. Let's all hide outside, she whispered in his ear. Hector won't look for us there. The twins agreed, and they all quietly snuck out the back. A few seconds later, the other Holly ran back inside. She had clicked the lock in place. She had locked Marco and Max out of the house. The other Hector had a video game controller in his hand. Victory! The game is ours. The other Holly sat down with him to play. Oh no, Holly's stomach sank. She could practically hear Oliver's voice in her head. You hid, but you were not found. She watched the other Holly laughing and gloating. She looked so pleased with herself. How could you? Petunia's eyes were red. Her face swelled with anger. They were good, she practically spat. They helped me. They helped you. I'm sorry, Holly said. She felt guilty. Even though she had no memory of what she had done, she had still done it, and she had sent Marco and Max to the Hiddenseek. A gust of wind whipped through Holly's hair. This made no sense. They were indoors, but now there was a chill and a breeze. Then she saw the mist. It seeped in from under the front door, through the cracks in the walls. It poured from the vents. The fog gathered. They all bunched together, as if in the eye of a hurricane. Gray clouds swirling around them. The house, the other versions of Holly and Hector, everything but fog was gone. The wind picked up. There was a whistling sound, like air escaping a balloon. A small hole appeared in the fog. It expanded. It looked like a large circular window, through which Holly could see sunlight and perhaps even a hint of green grass or trees. It looked like a way out. Follow me, Holly shouted, trying to raise her voice over the rushing wind. George shouted something back, but she couldn't hear. The hole began to shrink. It was closing. Holly locked arms with Hector and pulled him with her. George and Petunia followed. They ran toward the hole, pressing forward against the wind. The exit continued to shrink, the fog closing in like water circling a drain. Holly sprinted with all she had. She reached out just in time to see the hole disappear, tufts of mist wafting over her outstretched hand. She was too late. All right, moving on to chapter 26. All right. Let's do this. When at last the fog began to clear, when the blurry, blinding gray finally calmed and broke apart. The first thing Holly saw was grass. It was a narrow patch of lawn, just next to a curb. She was on a sidewalk. Where are we now? Hector spun around, searching. The fog was dissipating slowly, and it was still difficult to see. I can't tell, George said. Looks like we're outdoors. Petunia sank to the ground, burying her face in her hands. I'm so tired of this stupid place, she cried in muffled sobs. I just want to go home. Hey, Holly reached out to comfort her, but Petunia wouldn't even look at her. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. She waved Holly away. Holly drew back. She blames me for the twins, Holly thought. She wished she could think of something to say to make it better. She wished she didn't feel like it really was all her fault. The sound of chattering and laughter came from behind. Ha! Did you see her face? Holly turned toward the voices. She had been so preoccupied she hadn't even noticed that the fog had fully cleared. They were just outside a park. There was a playground, a very familiar playground. This was her park. This was where she had been hiding when all of this began. A group of kids came down the sidewalk. She recognized them. Owen Orlovsky, Karen Graham, Zoe Zamaripa, and Hector. Well, the past version of Hector. They were all smiling and laughing. Did you see the way she ran? Zoe sneered. I'm embarrassed for her. I really am. Correction, Holly thought. They were laughing and smiling at her. She thinks she's so smart. The other Hector eyed the playground where the other Holly was hiding. The snickering kids walked off together, away from the park. Hector stopped to look back once before he left her behind. Holly had known they must have laughed at her. She'd imagined what they must have said, but actually seeing Hector join in, it was so much worse. Her entire body felt wounded and raw. This is what he really thinks of me, what they all really think. Holly, the real Hector's quiet voice came from beside her. I didn't mean it. As if she could believe that, as if it even mattered now. Just shut up, Holly said. The memory kept playing right in front of their eyes. The other Hector came back. He sculled around the corner, hiding behind a bench. Holly didn't know he'd done that. She could see his face. He was smiling. Holly watched the past version of herself crawl out from her hiding spot in the tunnels. Tears streaked her face. She could sense George and Petunia staring at her, pitying her. She couldn't meet their eyes. Fog rolled in, just as it had before. It settled over the park, slowly stretching, expanding. It's coming for us, Holly realized. It quickly surrounded them again. Holly, listen, Hector started again. Not now, dummy, Holly snapped. Didn't I say to shut up? No, Hector shouted back, his voice cracking. I won't shut up. A whistling sound filled the air behind Hector, right by the tunnel where Holly had hidden. A small hole in the fog appeared, the exit. And I'm not a dummy, Hector kept shouting. I hate when you call me that. His cheeks were getting red, and he had that expression on his face, mouth open, bottom teeth starting to stick out, a meltdown. You can't seriously be doing this right now. We don't have time for this, Holly yelled. We have to go now. No, Hector cried. I'm not going anywhere with you. The hole in the fog had expanded. It was big enough to run through. But if this was anything like last time, in moments it would be closed. Holly grabbed her brother by the arm. She was going to save his stupid life. Then she was going to tell him exactly what she thought of him, once and for all. That was chapter 26. Now moving on to, finally, chapter 27. It's getting heated. Chapter 27. They emerged from the fog, stumbling like dazed survivors coming ashore after a shipwreck. Holly still held on to Hector's arm. Behind her, Petunia and George tumbled to the ground. Everything was still blurry, but something ahead dominated her field of vision. Something tall and solid. The manor. It was old, not just in style, though. That was old, too. Its facade was rectangular and flat, made of once red bricks that were now blotched with black and gray. A set of double doors, white paint, peeling and cracking off in jagged strips, separated the two wings of the house. Each side was a mirror image of the other. There were 2 rows of windows, each one dark and cloudy like eyes that had gone blind. George rested his hands on his knees, catching his breath. Petunia spun slowly around as if unsure which direction to go. Hector yanked his arm away from Holly's grasp. Hard. She turned on him. What was that all about in there? She demanded. He rolled his eyes. Forget it. She wasn't going to let him off that easy this time. You always do this. You only ever think about yourself. It's always all about you. And you always do this, Hector snap. You always think you know everything. You act like you're better than me. His face was red and sizzling. I'm sick of it. He took sharp, angry breaths and glared at Holly, like she was the one who had done something wrong. Holly was incredulous. Really? Now she was even angrier. That's why you left me in the park. That's why you got us into this mess. No, Hector said. That's why no one likes you. That's why you don't have any friends. His words hung in the air. Holly didn't respond. Not right away. The silence was its own kind of response. It let him know this wasn't an argument, not anymore. You're right, Holly said. That was not what Hector had expected to hear. He opened his closed mouth, unsure of how to respond. Holly's voice was just a scratch above a whisper. I don't have any friends. Hector's expression softened. Maybe it was a sign of regret. Holly didn't care. And I don't have a brother now either. Once we get home, I'm done with you. Hector's eyes twitched a little, but he didn't break eye contact. Holly and Hector stared each other down, both defiant, both daring the other to look away first. Good, Hector said. Good, Holly replied. Guys, a voice from behind broke their standoff. It was Petunia. Can we leave now? She had her arms crossed, her eyes shooting daggers at them. Can we try to go home? Petunia was right, of course. They were wasting time. Holly could hear Hector shuffling behind her, and she didn't turn or acknowledge him in any way. Best to ignore him. Okay, Holly nodded. Let's go. The 4 of them slumped over to the house, dragging themselves across the lawn. No one spoke. Wait, George said as Holly reached for the handle. Don't we need to get around to the back? That's where the fountain would be, right? Yeah, Holly said. But look, she pointed. Fog surrounded the sides of the house, curling and slapping against the walls as if trying to break its way in. I'm not going back in that stuff. Not if I can help it. George nodded his agreement. Holly twisted the handle, and the door creaked open. They stepped inside. A foyer spread before them in an oval. The walls were adorned in decorative mahogany paneling. There was a red tasseled rug in the center, covering a dark wooden floor. Beyond the foyer was a hallway, stretching back to a staircase. And in the center of the foyer was a statue. It was a kid on his knees, a boy, wearing pants that came down to only his calves. The boy had his hands together, the plaintive expression forever etched on his face. made it seem like he was begging or sending a prayer that was never answered. His eyes flashed red. "Close the door!" Holly yelled. George slammed the door shut. "We'll have time if we hurry," Holly told the others. "We just need to get through the house and out back." As if in answer, there was a heavy, hollow thump. Then another. The woman in black stood at the bottom of the stairs. She was already there. The woman spread her arms and leapt, her black dress and hair flowing and wrapping around as she sprouted wings. She was the raven, streaking toward them like an unleashed arrow. "This way!" Holly yelled, quickly running forward. If they got past her, maybe they could get outside to the fountain before she caught up. Holly slid beneath the gliding raven, but Hector, Petunia, and George didn't move fast enough. It landed. Black feathers stretched and billowed and snapped just as she touched ground. She rose, once again, the woman. She was between Holly and the others. George, Petunia, and Hector backed away, edging around the curve of the foyer. But it ignored them. She turned fully to face Holly. Her red eyes sparkled like flames. Holly had no choice. She spun around. There was only one way to go. She raced for the stairs. Whatever happened next, she would have to face it on her own. And that was chapters 25, 26, and 27. I just noticed there's a raven on this. Okay, there's a raven on the side right there. That's cool. Okay, so yeah, that was 25, 26, and 27 of the Hiddenseek. Come out, wherever you are. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, maybe, and share with your friends for more awesome videos like this. Bye!